Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Memorial Stadium. Mullin and Amie Just coming at you, kicking off a little bit of pre-spring football practice, talking to Rhule and two of the major workers from the offseason workouts, Thomas Fidone and Chief Borders. Really interesting to kind of hear the competition and the team aspect to what they did in the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. They had completely changed things up, from what I gather, from previous years, bringing in a program that Rhule has implemented at his other stops, and from the sounds of it, they had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting, too, because you kind of get this sense of, the offseason, it's all about working in the weight room. But for them, this program was so much bigger than that. These teams were kind of assigned points. A lot of it came down to community service and, basic things like showing up on time to team meetings, going to events as a team, Nebraska sporting events. That was something really big that Coach Rhule has been preaching. And when you see Thomas Fidone and Chief Borders as those two top point getters, they kind of spoke about it a little bit about kind of like kicking their teammates into high gear, like texting them like, hey, you got to get here on time, all this stuff. So I think it was really interesting to hear how they just kind of are shaping that team unity. And as Rhule said, kind of trying to divide it up, not just your position groups, but guys all over the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was talking about how you need speed guys and you need big guys and you need guys who are accountable and show up on time. And it was really interesting to get kind of the nitty gritty on that. Like 10 to 12 guys were on that team, Fidone said. So pretty interesting. We didn't get all the names though.
And we didn't learn who hasn't been there on time either. Nobody wants to say that.
No, definitely not.
But, in terms of the two guys that we talked to, let's start with Fidone. Really interesting because, of course, he's been recovering from these injuries. He's still got all that talent, that people were expecting to see out here, and still super motivated, obviously.
Oh, yeah. He was talking about how, this setback just prepares him for an even bigger comeback. And we asked him about, is he 100% ready to go? How does he feel? He says he is. Rhule said he's probably going to be a little careful with him because they don't want the risk of re-injury to him. But one thing that Thomas said that I thought was really interesting, he said a lot of interesting things, was that the coaching staff, some of them in particular, but he didn't name names, really wanted him back to the point where they were yelling at him. Why isn't he playing and all of this? And that's pretty frustrating. Frustrating situation for him to be in when he's not medically cleared by who he said was the team surgeon or the head surgeon. But his coaches are yelling at him because he can kind of practice, so he should play. That's a really frustrating situation for a guy to be in.
Yeah, obviously you feel for him because it's kind of like he's getting pulled both these different ways, and like any player, wants to be out there. So good to hear from him. He said he's full go this spring at his heaviest weight, and he said he's his fastest yet. So good news for Fidone in the weight room. And the other player we talked to, Chief Borders, my initial impression was just like, man, this guy's energetic. If he was my team captain, I'd want to be out there, going to stuff because you just get the sense, he just comes off as a really, friendly guy, the kind of teammate that would have your back. And of course, they're, out there on the field, you're expecting him to come in as kind of an impact transfer. He spoke a little bit about how he got the chance to work against really good players. Sam McHugh, our colleague at the World Herald, asked about Anthony Richardson, going to be one of the top quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft. Borders went up against him in practice there at Florida every day. And, of course, a little bit of a transition maybe from SEC to the Big Ten, but great lineman, great systems that he's gotten used to at both those spots. So really good to hear from Chief Borders, and he's already making an impact on his team. That much is clear.
Yeah, not just on this team, right? One of the reasons why he was one of the top point getters for this offseason program was because he was going out and doing a lot of community service, speaking at schools, really getting integrated into various aspects of the community, whether that's in Lincoln and Omaha, and I thought that was really interesting.
For sure. And, also just kind of wrapping up this winter conditioning period, now as we get into kind of the spring practice season, we heard from Coach Rhule, of course, about, all the important things that go into this period. But what stood out to us was that he was saying practice is the most important thing that they do. Yeah, recruiting, weight room, all this stuff, football is such an amalgamation of all these different aspects. But to Rhule, it's all about practice because you get those moments in there with the team, it prepares them for out there being in there on the game.
Yeah, and he said it pretty no bones about it. Practice is the most important thing, not recruiting, not the off season, not this, not that. Practice. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in practice. He was asked today how physical things would be, and he said they're going to be very physical. They're not going to be cavemen about it. They're going to do what they can, within the rules, but they're going to be very diligent about being physical and finding the line.
Yep, no doubt. And that spring practice starts March 20th, by the way. We'll have the update. We'll expect to hear from coaches on that day as well. But for the next 2 weeks, just getting geared up for that spring practice. Stay tuned, journalstar.com, for all the coverage. Thanks for watching today's Four Downs.